I mean, if you think of the demands that have been on the payroll professional just this year because of COVID, in terms of managing the furlough payments, doing all the reporting, there's continuing business as usual. It is fast paced. It is somewhere that there's lots of opportunity to change. I started off as a payroll administrator. I've been in implementation. I've been in operations, as you said. So, you don't just have to process someone's pay. You can work your way through a ladder and become a team leaders. There's payroll partners out there now in accounting firms that has never been seen before. So there's a real opportunity for career progression.
Welcome to the Payroll Podcast with your host, Nick Day. Find out what it takes to truly discover what it takes to elevate your career within payroll as we meet with the industry leaders who are shaping the industry for tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to the Payroll Podcast. Today I'm joined by Paul Gibbons, Chief Operating Officer at PayDashboard, a company he joined in February 2016 and was promoted to COO in September 2018. Now, Paul has an extensive background in payroll. He's worked in various roles, both processing payrolls in-house and in a bureau environment. He's CIPP qualified, and in fact, he also worked as a tutor for the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals, where he was educating and inspiring the next generation of payroll talent. So Paul is someone who's got lots of first-hand experience of the pressures of working in payroll. He truly understands and respects the challenges faced by both clients and internal departments, and he's using that knowledge now to help shape the functionality at PayDashboard. He's someone who's passionate about adding value to the payroll process. And he says at PayDashboard, for him and the business, the payslip is just the beginning. So sit back, relax, and let's find out why. Paul, you've come from a bureau background. You're now vendor side with PayDashboard, providing software. We're going to find out all about that during the course of this podcast. What I'd love to know, and if you could just tell our listeners a little bit more about your experiences to date that have led you on your journey from, I guess, starting in payroll at a more humble level all the way through to COO. So what your background has been to date and what's really brought you to where you are today at PayDashboard.
Yeah, hi there. I started off in payroll by accident, really. So my brother said, there's a job going here when I left college after studying computer programming. I thought, I need a job. It's the summer. Let's just go for it. So I got a job with him. And so that's really where things started in payroll. So I was there for a few years doing that and then moved to in-house payroll processing. So the first job was in a bureau for a government agency, really. And then moved across into in-house payroll, where I was there for a few years and just really learned the ropes, really. That started to learn all about the statutory payments and all things like that I didn't really learn at the first position. And as I progressed through that, I decided that I quite enjoyed the variety and the challenges that are in payroll, and then decided to study with the CIPP for my foundation degree. At that time, I moved over to work for a payroll bureau and stayed with that bureau for 10, 11 years or so. Started off as a payroll administrator and then took over the implementation team. So was responsible for going out and meeting clients and helping them onboard their payrolls and working through their processes. So I've had quite a broad experience in payroll. And one thing I did realize while studying and doing the job that I was doing is that I wanted to educate others. So I'm also a tutor for the CIPP and spend the occasional Saturday teaching the newcomers to payroll, if you like, and helping them through their studies as well. So after those 11 years in the bureau, I decided time for a change, and I moved over to PayDashboard, and it was a real change, moving from what was a real service industry type provider in terms of, delivering payroll as a outsourced provider, to providing software for services providers. Took some getting used to. At first, I thought, this is nice. This is far more relaxed than being in the bureau environment, and don't have to worry about BACS deadlines and P11Ds and tax year ends and all those kind of things. But the reality soon changed when the demands of providing software that it's used by over 13,000 companies throughout the UK. There's a need to make sure that software works, is robust, has a support desk that can respond to every user, right down to employee level. So, it was soon met with some challenges as our user numbers started to grow. But I've enjoyed the change, and so that's where I've ended up now, and been with PayDashboard now for the last 4 years or so, and seen that move from a new business, if you like, to an established business that provides payslip information to hundreds of thousands of people a month now.
It's an amazing journey, and I think you started your payroll career at a similar time to me on the payroll recruitment side. So I'd be interested to know how, the concept of what you deliver now at PayDashboard was just so far removed from where you were in sort of 2003. The whole idea that this could be so interactive, it's amazing. So since you started your payroll career almost sort of 20 years ago, how has the evolution? How has pay evolved? How has the payslip evolved over that time? What kind of evolution have you seen within the payroll cycle that has allowed I guess the future of payroll to be where it is, or the technology that we're able to live in now to be where it is? Because even only a couple of years ago, I remember I did one of my first podcasts where I think it was Max van der Klisper-Sink said to me the one thing he'd really like in the future was a really interactive payslip, and that would be amazing. And now here we are, and these things are now being produced. So tell me a little bit about how you've experienced the evolution of pay.
Yeah, so when I started out in payroll, we had a dot matrix printer that you'd line up your payslips on and make sure it was exactly lined up right, because otherwise the print job would be all over the place. And you used to spend, countless amount of hours afterwards separating the carbon copy payslip from the true payslip. It was almost like a workout for your arms, keep separating the documents. And that's how it was when I first started. And obviously, from that time, you've seen things change. Payslips delivered by email, payslips delivered in a portal. So when I was looking to join PayDashboard, the thing that excited me was just that Payday Experience that we provide. So it was saying that, okay, well, every employee has to get a payslip. That's fine. But it shouldn't just be a tick of the box exercise. It should be something that the employee can use that will help them to understand their pay. And the way payroll processing has changed over the years, and the demand on the payroll individual, it's not just data entry like it perhaps used to be. It's a very skilled subject matter now that covers a huge array of different things. So, an individual doesn't have the time to pick up the phone and speak to their employee and talk to them about their tax code, or to help them understand that, if they're working from home, they can apply to get some funding to help them, alongside their tax code. So having an interactive payslip does all that for you. And it's just engaging with an employee. Why should the payroll processing stop when the payslip's delivered? Yes, it's the end of the calculation piece, but there's much more that you can do with an employee as an employer or a service provider on delivery of that document. So to see things change that way to, yes, okay, payslips are delivered in the portal, but it's still a static image of a payslip. Basically, you're just hosting it in the cloud. To be able for a user to go in and interact and quickly look at how much overtime they've accrued in the last year, or to analyze that if they did this, they could save this. Did they know that actually year on year their pay has gone up by so many %? People engage in a different way when you present information to them differently. So that's what we do here. And I think that technology is fast becoming, it's had an impact on every industry, but payroll has probably been one of the slowest in the financial sectors to change. And, we hear now about automation and, bots and things like that coming in to do stuff. And that's all great, because there are a lot of tasks that are, exactly the same. So efficiencies are needed. So we sit there saying, okay, well, how can we provide efficiency through the payslip? And if we can answer people's tax code queries, or we can give them some advice about, marriage person's allowance and things like that, then that's just adding value and saving the processor time.
Sure, well, that makes sense. Something I'm seeing in the recruitment side, and you've heard it in these podcasts before, is we've seen a change in terms of what employers are looking for now. It used to be about attracting employees to their brand. Now it's a lot more about retention. It's a lot more about employee engagement. And within that comes the employee experience. And that payslip is a big part of that employee experience. We work really hard. We're still on a pretty, generally across the UK, on a pretty traditional monthly pay cycle. That may well change in the future with pay on demand services coming in, which I'm sure will throw some problems your way as well. But I think that experience piece, that end of the month feeling when you do get paid, it's payday, and you open, back in the day, you used to open that pay slip and see what was inside. That is a real experience for employees. So do you think that this is now sort of it makes sense that it's contributing to that employee engagement piece? Are you seeing any data that supports, that wellness side of things, that engagement piece that's I guess reducing attrition for employers because they are feeling like they are more engaged and they are getting a better experience through the way that they work?
Yeah, definitely. We talk a lot about the payday experience, and that really the experience of payday starts from when you receive your pay. As an employee, you've worked hard all month, or whatever your pay frequency is, and you receive that pay slip. And yes, okay, you may look at your bank statement and say, well, the money's gone in, great, but you want to understand how that figure has been arrived at, and that the experience then for the employee starts then. They start thinking about, well, what have I got to spend out this month, or what are my costs going to be? So how much disposable income do I have? And there's a lot of issues going on at the moment in the world, and with financial well-being and all those kind of things being really important. We find that having an interactive payslip does allow an employer to engage with their employees without really having to put a lot of effort in. We talk to them about trends that have happened on their pay, to identify for them that what has actually changed on their pay. I think there's stats that say that 64% of people check they're paid right based on comparing their last payslip to the most recent payslip. Well, we do all that for you so that you just literally look at a screen and it's there. And so an employee feels their employer is helping them to know more about what's going on with their pay, to get access to a lot more information. And as I say, the financial well-being piece is really key. Money is tight, with COVID and everything that's happened, that we're starting to see a lot of redundancies happen in certain industries. That's all going to have an impact somewhere along the line. So if you can provide to your employees some literature and opportunity to help with their financial well-being, then why wouldn't you do that when you have them focused on something every time they get paid?
I mean, you've worked in-house, you've worked bureau side, you're now software side, obviously supporting clients. Do you feel then that from a payroll management perspective, the payroll managers listening to this, that they should be, pushing their employers to play a bigger part in the financial wellness of their employees? And do you think they can do that through payroll? Do you think it's a payroll manager's responsibility to try and improve the financial wellness of their employees through this experience? Does this need to come from the payroll manager, or should this come from above?
I think it's a combination of both. To be fair, I think that in payroll, we know that it's a very emotive subject. We know that, you can get someone's pay incorrectly calculated, and the knock-on effects of that are quite severe. So if we want to actually change that to a positive in terms of every time they get paid, they're experiencing a really good experience in terms of, here's some information for you about some financial well-being, whether it's about switching your electricity supplies or whatever it may be. It's just taking that step a bit further. You have them for a captive audience at that time, if you like, when delivering that payslip, when people are really thinking about what they're going to do. How much money have I got left this month to be able to I don't know, maybe take a holiday, or go to the shops or whatever and buy some new things for the house. And it's at that point, and I think that payroll people, we see a lot of what happens, and we really get a vibe from people that we pay in terms of their struggles. You can tend to feel it when you get queries back and things like that, and I think that with a payroll professional, I think the biggest concern for those guys is how much more effort is going to be required on me. And so, with my background now sitting in software, I've worked in the bureau for 11 years, so I completely understand the struggles that payroll professionals are under, whether it's in-house or in a bureau, and how their time is stretched. So I think if you can put something around a task that you already do, which is delivering a payslip, that allows an employee to be able to be engaged with by their employer, then why would you not really want to champion that? And I think that payroll professionals they sometimes be able to get their voice across as loud as they should do.
It's a good opportunity then, using this as an example, it's a good opportunity for people to find that voice, because this seems to be a win-win solution all around, really. If it improves the employee experience, then you're achieving your strategic objectives at board level in terms of that retention piece, but also it allows you to actually, as a payroll professional, have a real impact on a broader organizational objective as well, around that experience piece, around that financial wellness. So it's quite an interesting dynamic, because it's not often that payroll people have that opportunity, and it sounds like this the modern payslip is one of a few things like pay on demand and other services that are coming to the fore now. Another opportunity for payroll professionals to kind of raise their hands above the parapet and say, actually, we should be doing something here, because it can make a difference.
I think so. I think like we talk, although our primary focus is delivering payslip data, we do refer to ourselves as an engagement tool, and I think that a payroll professional is probably the person that in any organization people will just naturally migrate to. So whether they've got a query about logging into their benefits portal, or a query about their pay, or a query, it all tends to feed back through to payroll if it's anything linked, even by a small margin to payroll. That user has to deal with that situation. And I think that with the interactive side, is what we try to do is give time back to a payroll professional. So whether that is providing financial wellbeing or literature around tax code advice, or educational content for marriage allowance, then it allows the payroll professional to actually do the job that they should be doing, and not have to spend a lot of time answering queries and questions that could be provided to the employee in a smart and interactive way.
Sure. So, I mean, this is obviously pretty new tech in the scheme of things. I said 2 years ago we were talking about this happening. Now we're here, we're delivering it, and we're seeing technology change at a really rapid pace. In fact, it's probably changing quicker than the skills required to actually manage it. So with that in mind, how do you think these technology advancements are going to change the future skills requirements of payroll professionals? And are there any recommendations that you can provide as someone who's right at the coalface on the tech side of things that you could give to payroll professionals who want to prepare for what is coming in the future?
A lot of it comes down to the ability to want to change, is to accept that technology is going to have an impact, and that the broad brush stuff in terms of how you calculate SSP, for example, maternity pay, that's the same no matter what technology you use. So in terms of your skill set, I would say that it's just being able to be dynamic, being able to think creatively. I think software providers now that are coming to the market, we've just got our partnership agreement with PayCircle, is that those kind of providers are out there, wanting to make the technology changes as easy as possible for the users. So, gone are the days where systems had hundreds of tick boxes that you had to tick a million different things in order for it to do one little thing. It's all a lot more hidden behind the scenes now. It's a lot more structured in terms of, let's really think of a user's journey when we build a piece of software. And that's what we do. We have the benefit of someone like myself who's been in-house and in a bureau, sitting there going, okay, well, what makes sense for a payroll professional that's sitting there processing payroll, high volume, on demand, with very tight deadlines. So we always consider that person in every process that we make. And in terms of how you yourself personally build up your skill set, I think it's taking time out to say, okay, well, I need to learn certain things. I need to be able to do this in order to do my job correctly. We are lucky enough where in PayDashboard we have a really good collaboration between the teams, and everyone pitches in to all sorts of different things. So, we have our developers join sales meetings, and our salespeople join our operational discussions, and so everyone learns through engaging with each other. And that way, everyone feels they're part of the business as well.
Sure. I like that. I mean, collaboration is obviously really important. But what I'd be interested to know from you, though, Paul, because you're someone who is at a role now which a lot of payroll professionals will aspire to get to. Right at the COO of PayDashboard. What's been the steepest learning curve from you, moving away from payroll operations, if you like, into I guess a role like COO? How's that journey been for you? Where have been the steep learning curves?
For me personally, it's just realizing that actually your involvement in something is actually quite important to the business, which sounds bizarre being the COO and not really appreciating that. But people do aspire to learn some of the knowledge that I have in terms of the payroll knowledge as well as the system knowledge. And I think that for me, the biggest learning curve has been to just respect that, we are a software provider. We deliver technology to a lot of people in lots of different ways who have lots of different skill sets. So, we do have the older generation that are trying to access our site in order to gain their pay slips. And that the other side is we have, young individuals who have never experienced receiving a paper document in their lives. So, we're building a solution that has to adapt to that. And I guess for me, it's being able to recognize that we want to be agile as a business. And I appreciate the difficulties that happen in payroll, but also in software, we can't just build something and push it out for release in hours. We have to do it in a structured way. And I guess for me, that was quite a tough learning curve. I'm used to just saying, right, okay, we need to do this. Let's get it done and let's just do it. And we can't do that when we have so many users on the platform. But what we do is structure things in a way that we can help people quickly.
I think that would definitely be my biggest challenge in your environment is if I saw a new feature, I would want to get it straight out. I know you need to test and do these things, but I get so excited. I think I'd find it really difficult to hold back until all the testing had been complete. I'd just get too excited.
Yeah, I'm the same. And I think sometimes the developers, they just want to lock me in a room, really, because come on, let's get this shipped, let's get it out the door. We need to do this now. And actually, there's a process that we need to go through. And it's a process that needs to happen. And to make sure things work correctly. And the last thing we'd want is for people not to be able to access their payslips when they need to. That bureau background does still sit with me, I'm afraid, where it needs to be done. It needs to be done right now.
Sure, no, I can imagine. I'm sure there'll be people listening that can feel the same way and can sympathise with that as well. Well, listen, we're going to find out a little bit more about yourself, Paul. Number one, first question: which individual has influenced your career the most?
So when I studied my foundation degree, my tutor was Christine Johnson, and I remember attending her module review days, and she was just normal. That it's difficult to explain, but she just put it on a level that you could just relate to, and she inspired me to want to be a tutor for the CIPP. And the way that I teach and I deliver module review days is very similar. That if you can relate it to a process, people will learn a lot better. So she was my real inspiration professionally.
Great. I know Christine Johnson, so yeah, great chance to give her a little shout out here on the podcast. Fantastic. Second, what are the main resources that have really helped you on your career journey?
I would just say that it's been colleagues, really, and both in the companies that I've worked for and the CIPP. There's a vast amount of information available online, and I think a lot of us experience the greyness of the HMRC, that things are not always black and white, and sometimes you need to rely on colleagues, tutor groups to be able to find your way forwards in some situations. So I think resource-wise, it's really been colleagues that have been supportive all the way through.
Excellent. I'm definitely getting a collaborative feel from this interview as well. It's something that you're clearly passionate about, is that collaboration piece, which is great. So next question: if you could invite 3 people to a dinner party, they can be dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Oh gosh. So definitely invite Adele. I think she'd be quite funny. Oh no, you've knocked me all off kilter now. I can't think of the other 2.
I saw Adele live actually last year. She is hilarious. She wasn't. I didn't realise she was like that when she wasn't singing. She completely caught me off guard, but she was fantastic.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to see her twice before the final concert where she had to pull out. So I'm quite lucky to have done that. So yeah, I'd probably invite Adele, my dad, who's no longer with us. I would like him to be around the table. And I would probably say someone like Frank Sinatra or something like that.
Perfect. Well, that sounds like a pretty good dinner party to me. Last question, and we're going to keep it a little bit off-piste here. If you had any superpower, Paul, what would it be and why?
It'd probably be to change time, I would say, would be the superpower. Just that there never feels like there's enough time in the day, whether it's you're on holiday, relaxing, you've got a busy day in the office, you're just doing something that's rather enjoyable. You either want to slow the time down, speed the time up, or just give yourself more time in general.
Brilliant.
So
well, that's a brand new answer as well. I don't think we've ever had that before. So there you go. It's a unique answer, and I love it. That's you brought it right here on the Payroll Podcast. It's fantastic. Listen, we're going to jump to a quick advert break. We're going to find out a little bit more about PayDashboard, a little bit more about the software and the journey as well. So stay tuned. We're back with you in just one moment.
Have you ever asked yourself, how can I recruit payroll staff effectively? Please don't give up on your recruitment project just yet. Here at JGA Payroll Recruitment, we appreciate the difficulties associated with attracting, recruiting and retaining top payroll talent. We also understand just how costly a poor payroll hire can be. JGA Recruitment are a niche payroll recruitment agency who will partner with you to resource payroll candidates who will improve both the accuracy and efficiency of your payroll department. Contact us today on 01727 800 377 or visit jgarecruitment.com to find out more.
Paul, let's talk a little bit more about PayDashboard. I've read that obviously you're an independent provider and that you're not affiliated to any of the payroll bureaus or payroll software packages. And it's been quite a strategic decision to remain agnostic so that you can, presumably, you're therefore free to work with sort of any payroll service provider or any software without fear of competing for the same clients. Tell me a little bit more about that strategic decision. Obviously, I read a little bit about your collaboration recently with PayCircle. I don't know if that affects that independency, or I'd love to hear a little bit more about the philosophy of PayDashboard from that independent perspective.
Yeah, so we decided that, that if we think about the payroll process in that, it's like, and football is not my forte, but, if we consider, like a football pitch, is that we do the last 10 yards of the payroll process and in terms of the delivery side really, really well. And the software providers do the other 90 yards very, very well as well. So we believe that actually, there is a need to collaborate. And one of the things that I've always found in the industry is collaboration is really difficult between software providers. Everyone's quite protective of their client bases and want to retain them for themselves. What we believe in is actually best of breed in that, the provider should be able to pick the software that works for them. And therefore we said, well, look, we're never going to go into processing payroll. We don't want to build a payroll software technology. There's lots of them out there. There's some that are very, very good. And, why do we want to reinvent the wheel? We want to do what we do really well. So we went about collaboration. Yes, we have our partnership with PayCircle that we're very excited about. And that doesn't change anything in terms of us wanting to be agnostic. It just means that when the service provider, a bureau or, a direct client wants to use the best of both softwares, then they can. And together they know that they have two providers that are working together in the background to provide them with the best possible solution that they can have. And that's really our ethos, really, is that, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to change the wheel. Through collaboration, through good technology, through engagement, and through listening to our customers and delivering what they want. That's what we're all about, really.
Talking about that, I didn't realize it was going to go there, but you're talking about that collaboration piece again, which is great, which is fantastic. And it's, it is exciting to see that we can do a lot more now, through the providers, through different softwares. We're seeing a lot more expert level software in different areas rather than sort of integrated packages that do everything. There's been a real change in direction, I think, as sort of from a recruitment perspective. We're seeing clients take on, as you term, best in breed elements that they can incorporate into there and can integrate with their existing systems, which is kind of a new thing. It used to be sort of all in one packages. And I think there's a bit of a move away from those, or certainly I'm seeing it as a recruiter. Now, I know that PayDashboard obviously likes to take a different approach to payslips because And I read here that you like to, to look at them at the start of the, as the start of the journey for an employee, rather than just the output of the payroll process. But you mentioned just a minute ago that really you're focused on those last 10 yards. So can you tell me a little bit more about, how you then, although you're focused on the last 10 yards, using the football analogy, how you're also able to really look at the whole journey for an employee through the payslip process?
Yeah, so when I say the last 10 yards, I mean that in terms of the payroll process, and in that most situations, when you get to the payslip delivery, you're closing down your payroll process then. And really for us, it's where the extra 90 yards then starts, is that we say, okay, we're kicking in here, we're starting to do the delivery piece. So, how do we give that employee the best experience that they can have from receiving their payslip? Which is why we talk about the Payday Experience, in that we have very high engagement rates for people accessing our solution. They are engaged. They want to come in. They read a number of different articles that we have in there. They interact with the features that we have. So we are taking them through that journey. We take them through the journey in terms of showing them what has changed on their pay. Have they considered looking at certain pieces of information? So if you think their tax code may not be right, we guide them through to some simple self-help articles that can help them to maybe address that issue, which all leads back to the financial wellbeing piece. So when we talk about working with other software providers, we do that part very, very well. So yes, we deliver a payslip. We tick that box because that's legislative and that has to happen. But we take that user on the journey that no other provider really does, and engage with them on lots of different levels. And as I said before, our engagement rates are incredibly high for a payslip delivery platform.
I've got to ask, this is really from my own pure personal curiosity, and if you're able to share it, and if you can't, fair enough. If you can, I'd love to know. What's the most clicked on piece of data that people look at and look at their payslip? Is there the first thing they go to is, seeing, for example, how much their pay has increased, or seeing how much they've been taxed, or what's the most popular part of the interactive experience that you see employees really engaging with through the PayDashboard platform?
So it's what's changed on my pay is probably the highest. And then in terms of our guidance articles that we provide to employees, they do change at the moment. When COVID originally kicked in and people were SSP related to COVID, that became our highest read article. It's since changed to, I think it switches between emergency tax codes and marriage allowance. It really depends what's going on in the world at the time with our guidance articles, but we try and keep them as up to date with what's going on in the world as possible, so they relate to people.
And what about on the payslip itself? So that when they're actually accessing their payslip, the most clickable bit is really the bit you mentioned about what's changed in their pay.
Exactly, yeah. The bit that what's changed, people go to that. They can quickly see by percentage and cash value what's changed in their pay. And I think most of us will want to know, well, why has my pay changed? Obviously, it's if you get overtime and things like that, there's an expectation there. But it's the quickest way really to identify if your pay is correct or not. So that's our highest clickable feature, if you like.
Right, and you mentioned just a moment ago, the impacts that we've all experienced with COVID. We're still, I think, with 100 days, just gone 100 days past now since the pandemic began. Are there any features that you've had to consider in order to react to COVID-19 at PayDashboard? Particularly with CJRS payments, I'm assuming that's been a complex element right off the bat to start incorporating into your payslips.
Yeah, so luckily, the way that we receive data, we can handle the furlough scheme showing on the payslips quite easily. What we did build out was a COVID-19 dashboard for our agent users. So for those individuals that publish the data, we built out a dashboard for them so they could analyze across their entire client base how many clients have had a furlough payment, how many clients have seen a decline or an increase in headcount across their entire client base. If you're in the commercial bureau, for example, you've got 800 clients, that's quite a powerful tool to be able to give that back to them quite quickly. Most software providers will look at everything as a per payroll scenario, so a per employer. You don't get the visibility across your entire client base. So I think we come up with the idea, built it, released it within 9 days. And so that was put out at the very beginning of the pandemic for our agent users to use. And that's seen some good responses on there. So it's just little things like that as an agile business, we can respond to. And in my position, I can change the priorities of the development. pipeline to meet the needs of our customers. And we felt that that's something that we could do to help them in the crisis. So yeah, quite pleased with that.
Yeah, it sounds powerful. It's a great example of how you can deliver value at scale as well. And what I thought was quite interesting is, there's so many software providers out there delivering different best-in-class or best-in-breed, as you put it, elements to the pay cycle. But actually, not always are they championed by someone that's worked in payroll for nearly 20 years at administrative and operational level. So actually, you having that background in bureau services, that background of what it feels like to be a payroll manager, must be a really powerful level of knowledge to be able to utilize when we do have crises like COVID-19 and when you do need to release a new product, because presumably you'll know firsthand what some of the challenges are that people are going to be faced with when this particular crisis hit. You'll be able to resonate with the experience and the pressures they'll be feeling, and that must be an invaluable knowledge to offer PayDashboard as COO.
It is, and for me, it's about thinking about that person and being in their shoes. They're having to learn about how to process the furlough payments in potentially a remote environment where, if you've got a team of 10 people, you're having to train them on something remotely that you may not have ever done before, which is happening all in real time. So for me to be able to put some of that into PayDashboard is really key, and it is rewarding. I can sit and have a conversation with a client and talk to them about their payroll processing and understand where they're getting issues, and not just talk to them about software. So I can really use that skill to relate to what's going on, and it helps with my team in inside PayDashboard. Like our sales team they're very conscious about payroll processing times, and so we make a conscious effort not to disturb people when we believe that they're going to be the most busy. We don't want to be a nuisance to people, and so to provide that knowledge and wealth of information back to my colleagues, it just makes PayDashboard stronger. It makes them approachable to payroll providers, in that we do understand what they go through on a daily basis, and we want to help them. We want to provide solutions that will give them time back. And so, yeah, I can sit there and really resonate with what's going on.
Excellent. Well, listen, last question before we open the vault, Paul. I think I had to ask this before we opened it, which is, you've got experience of in-house payroll. You've got experience of bureau payroll. You've been a payroll tutor for the Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals. You've worked in operations, and you're obviously now a COO within a software environment. If you were to sell payroll as a career, and I personally do think there's an issue as a recruiter in encouraging the younger generation to select payroll as a career choice. And I think it's strange for me because it's the most exciting it's probably ever been as a career choice, and we need to get that message out, in my view. How would you sell payroll as a career, knowing the opportunities you've had and knowing all the different elements that you've been part of, to someone who perhaps had never considered payroll as a choice before?
I just think there's so much career opportunity within that area. It is dynamic, it is fast-paced, it's forever changing. I mean, if you think of the demands that have been on the payroll professional just this year because of COVID, in terms of, managing the furlough payments, doing all the reporting, there's continuing business as usual. Like, it is fast-paced. It is somewhere that there's lots of opportunity to change. I started off as a payroll administrator. I've been in implementation. I've been in operations, as you said. So, you don't just have to process someone's pay. You can work your way through a ladder and become a team leaders. There's payroll partners out there now in accounting firms that has never been seen before. So there's a real opportunity for career progression. It really depends what you want to explore. If you're someone that, I should admit that I'm not particularly very good with numbers, which is ironic considering I work in this industry. But, I'm much more customer focused. And so it's a blend of the two. So I think that there is a real camaraderie as well within payroll, that we all look after each other. And so as a career, I don't see it being any different to being an accountant, really, with the progression that's available now.
Yeah, well, I fully agree. I definitely agree with the again, we're talking about collaboration again, but that community spirit. I mean, I don't work in processing payroll, I work in payroll recruitment, but rightly or wrongly, and maybe people don't want me to, but I feel very much part of the payroll community. And I think it's a very inclusive community, an incredibly supportive community. And it's quite unique, I think, in that sense. So I think you put it brilliantly there. I think there's loads of opportunity, as you mentioned, in implementation, in sales, in operations. in technology, which we're seeing advance all the time. And it's really good to hear your perspective from someone who's actually made it to the top of the tree, if you like, within the software business, which is fantastic. Look, we're going to open the vault.
Entering the vault.
One piece of advice you would give to someone working in payroll right now?
It would be take your time. Don't overcommit. So I have been in the situation where I said, yes, we can get something done, rush. And then it goes horribly wrong. And, as someone that doesn't like to cause anyone any problems, that's a steep learning curve. So I would just say to people that, you want to help people, you want to do the best thing. No one ever wants to make a mistake on someone's pay. So just take a second, breathe and relax, and then, tackle the problem head on.
Perfect. Fantastic. If you had the benefit of hindsight, what's the one career decision you would change?
I'd have probably, when I started off in payroll, probably would have tried harder to understand some of the legislative pieces that were in place. I was fresh out of college. I got a job working with my brother and really just used it as a means to get paid rather than considering it as an opportunity to formalize a career. But luckily, when I changed that job, I managed to change that attitude and was given the opportunity to step up quite early on in that role, and took that opportunity. But otherwise, I would say, hindsight, I've been really lucky, and I've worked for some great companies and had some brilliant job roles, and met some fantastic people along the way. So I don't really have many regrets in terms of my career at all.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. That's good. Let's flip it then. If you had the power of foresight and you could change the entire payroll industry with one action or one improvement, what would that action or improvement be?
Just allow everyone to be able to collaborate. To collaborate, yeah. So I think that, the industry is still a bit stuck in its way in terms of, ring fencing client bases, and actually for people to get the best, they need to be able to have providers that are willing to collaborate. So I think that, I would like to be able to see, everyone just say, yeah, come on, let's all just work together, provide the best possible solutions to the end users.
Well, it's definitely a running theme, collaboration through the body of this podcast. And actually, I'll talk in just a moment about an e-summit that's coming up at PayDashboard, which talks about collaboration and promotes collaboration in even more detail in just a moment. But last question within the vault, what's the most common reason, do you think, that for businesses failing when it comes to providing a robust payroll service?
I think it's training and education. I think that in most cases, payroll is seen as an overhead, which it is. Therefore, you don't have an individual just sitting around waiting for more work to come on board. So when you do have to recruit, there is an awful lot of information that a payroll person has to now learn. If you think that we've got all the statutory, all the pension, at the moment we've got all the furlough stuff going on, there's systems to use, there's customers to please, there's colleagues to get to know. That I think that, training and education is really key to providing a good service. I also think that alongside that, you need to be transparent with your customers and be quite open and honest with them. For me, it's a relationship piece more than, you're a client and you pay us and that's that. I really value the relationship side of things, and, we'll often have conversations with our customers that is nothing more than a chat over a coffee, and we gradually get around to talking about business. But, I like to hear that, their children are getting married, or, babies are on the way and what have you. And I think that's really key in order to provide that level of service. The want to know your customer is key.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that, and actually have I would like to think I have a similar mentality when it comes to approaching the clients that we work with. So fully agree. And a great way to finish the podcast, there are of course some links to mention that I would love to direct people to. If you're interested in finding out more about PayDashboard, please do go to paydashboard.com. I will put a link in the episode notes so you can fast track straight to the website if you wish to. I'll also put a link to Paul's LinkedIn profile, so if you want to connect with Paul directly to talk more about the services they provide, please find his link again in the episode notes. But also, I found this out this morning, hot off the press from Laura, who works in your marketing department, that the PayDashboard are launching an e-summit, which is taking place on Thursday, the 12th of November. It's between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock. You can sign up directly on their website, but again, I will put a link in the episode notes. But it's very much talking about, if I understand it correctly, we know during COVID that the challenges that have been faced by payroll teams, particularly within a bureau environment, have been quite different to those faced by in-house payroll teams. So it's an e-summit that's going to be talking about the coronavirus pandemic. It's designed specifically for firms who are running a payroll service. It's going to feature key insights from some amazing speakers that have a long-term background in the industry. So if you're interested in finding out more about that e-summit, I don't know if there's anything you can add to that, Paul, about what it's all about taking place in November.
Yeah, we launched it last year and we had some fantastic keynote speakers. It was just a place where people can come together, they can learn, they can talk, they can share any issues they're having, they can share their experiences, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. It's just a really, really nice environment to be in. And it also gives confidence that, you're not out there on your own. We're all here. We're all in the boat together. And yeah, people can sign up at paydashboard.com/PSS.
Fantastic. And it's that collaboration piece again. I also hope to be there to be involved as well. So if you are going to be signing up, hopefully I can say hello to you all you listeners at the moment at that e-summit. Of course, if you are a payroll leader listening to this podcast and you've got a payroll related vacancy, you want some specialist support from someone that actually understands payroll, i.e. myself and my team, please do give us a call. My number is 01727 800 377, or you can reach me directly at nick@jgarecruitment.com. Otherwise, thank you so much, Paul, for joining me today on the podcast. Thank you for listening, folks, and I look forward to bringing you all the next episode of the Payroll Podcast real soon. Take care of yourselves and each other. Speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Payroll Podcast with Nick Day of JGA Recruitment. If you need help with a current payroll vacancy, then please get in touch with Nick and his team. All contact details can be found in the episode notes. In the meantime, to make sure you never miss a future episode, please subscribe to the show through any of your favourite podcast channels. Till next time.